Have you ever listened to a recording of your own voice and thought, is that really me? That strange, instinctive feeling of discomfort? You're not alone. The first is air conduction, which we're all familiar with. So the sound leaves our mouth, and the sound waves travel through the air to our ears. This is how we hear other people's voices and all the other sounds around us. A microphone can't hear in two ways like you do. This gap between expectation and reality leads to that famous cringe or dislike feeling. You don't actually hate your voice. You're just unsettled by the fact that it's different from what you expect. Listening to our voice on a recording is like observing ourselves from the outside door, rather. Listening with an outsider's ear. Normally, because our brain is focused on the act of speaking, it puts parts of our auditory cortex into a kind of sleep mode, filtering out these minor imperfections. But a recording forgives nothing. And unfortunately, we are often our own harshest critics. You're not the only one on the planet feeling this way. Wow. And yes, there are ways to manage this feeling. We want our tone of voice to be perceived as intelligent, confident, or friendly. The voice we hear on a recording, which might sound inadequate to us, can trigger our anxieties about how others perceive us. Questions like, can people tell how nervous I am? Or do they take me seriously with this tone of voice? Start to run through our minds. It only captures the sound transmitted through the air, the real voice that everyone else hears. The rich bass frequencies from bone conduction are lost. The result. The voice you hear on the recording sounds higher pitched, thinner, and more unfamiliar than what you're used to. In fact, this phenomenon is so common that scientists have even given it a name: voice confrontation. So, why does our brain seem to hate the sound of our own voice? The answer is more complex and fascinating than you might think, involving both physiology and psychology. Podcasters, YouTubers, or people who give frequent presentations get accustomed to their voices over time. To them, your voice is just your voice, nothing more, nothing less. You don't have to have perfect diction. This is a psychological principle known as the mere exposure effect. It all starts with how we hear our own voice. We actually hear ourselves through two different pathways. It's a conflict between expectation and reality, and a reflection of our own harsh, critical nature. So the next time you hear your own voice and start to wince, remember the fascinating science at play and smile instead, because that voice is a unique part of you. But there's a second path that's unique to us: bone conduction. When we speak, the vibrations created by our vocal cords travel directly through the bones of our skull to our inner ear. The voice we hear inside our own head is a combination of these two pathways. The bass tones transmitted by our bones make our voice sound richer, fuller, and deeper to us. This bone conduction is particularly good at transmitting lower frequency sounds, the deeper, more resonant tones. And this is where the magic happens. So what happens on a recording? Our brain perceives this as an inconsistency. It says, wait a minute, that voice belongs to me, but that's not the voice I know. It's a psychological angle. Your inner critic takes the stage. Host. But the issue isn't just physiological. There's a psychological dimension to it as well. It's all the ums and ahs, the pauses, the unwanted vocal fry, or the awkward inflections that we don't notice while speaking are suddenly laid bare in the recording. Furthermore, we shouldn't forget that our voice is a part of our social identity. So, is there a way to overcome this dislike? The good news is that this is completely normal and universal. Get used to it. The more you expose yourself to your own voice, the more normal it will begin to sound. Remember, that's your real voice. Remind yourself that this is how others have always heard you, and they likely aren't nearly as critical as you are. Be kind to yourself. When you notice those flaws in your voice, accept that it's part of being human. In conclusion, your brain's hatred of your own voice isn't really hatred at all.